What is up, everyone? This is me, Base Chillaren, and my hair is wet because I just took a shower and I didn't feel like waiting to film this video because I am impatient. And anyway, so I'm here today to film another video in my manga closet, not to film a manga haul, but to film something that seems to be a very popular trend within the manga community now that we're heading towards the end of the year. And that would be my top 10 favorite pickups for this year. Now, I was kind of bouncing between if I wanted to do a video of just pickups or if I wanted to do a video of new series that came out this year, but weighing the two, my memory is really shitty, so I can't really remember what actually came out this year and what I just bought in general. So I'm just gonna do my top 10 favorite pickups for this year. So that means that it's stuff that didn't necessarily come out this year. It's just stuff that I happened to, get my little creepy fingers on this year. So we're going to start with honorable mentions first, and the first one would have to be Sweet Blue Flowers. This is a release that came out pretty recently, like a couple months ago, from Viz. It's a Yuri, and it's their second Yuri title that they released this year. And it's by the same author who wrote Wandering Sun, which has given a lot of people hope into whether or not someone's going to republish or just relicense Wandering Sun, which I really hope so. I really, really hope so. If you've seen another one of my videos, I talked about how I really wanted Wandering Sun to get re-released or republished or relicensed. But yeah, it's a really cute story, and it's not just like your typical Yuri love story where it's two girls and they meet and they fall in love. It's a lot more complex than that, and I really, really enjoy that, because it adds a lot more depth to the story when it's not just two girls falling in love and just kind of waffling around for a couple of chapters, you know what I'm saying? Next in our honorable mentions, we have Spirits and Cat Ears, which is a series that came out earlier this year, and the reason I picked it up is because this artist's artwork sort of resembles the artwork of the late Koko Fujiwara, who wrote Inoboku Secret Service, which is one of my favorite manga of all time. And this is a really, really cute series about this girl, and she's possessed by an evil spirit, not really evil spirit, but it's a spirit that the one thing that we know for sure is it gives her cat ears, and she has this complex about it, and she's a shut-in. But she goes into this special, training school to become a Miko with her familiar, who's really into bondage, and whenever they complete a mission together and he does a good job, he's like, alright, well, where's my reward? And he, dresses her up in, kinky clothes and, puts a collar on her and, all that good stuff. But yeah, this is a really, really cute, really, really interesting manga, and I'm really glad that it came out and introduced me to this author's line of work. And finally, in honorable mentions, we have Delicious in Dungeon, which I've seen a couple of other people pick up, so you've probably already heard of it by now, but it's a sort of an RPG adventure manga mixed with a cooking manga about this team of adventurers who have to go through a dungeon to rescue the main character's little sister, who gets eaten by a dragon, but they have no money to speak of and they have no provisions. Dude. A dwarf, yeah, he's a dwarf, and he specializes in, cooking different monsters, and he helps them through the dungeon, and it's, almost every chapter, it's them making some other interesting dish out of a monster that they find in the dungeon, and they go into, really great detail about how they cook and serve these monsters, and it's a really, really unique read, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. And for me, especially, I enjoyed it because it just gave me another elf waifu to add to my elf waifu collection, you know how it goes. Alright, so now we're getting into the official top 10s, and number 10 is gonna have to be the Revolutionary Girl Utena limited edition box set that came out in spring of this year. You've seen it already. These books are beautiful and hardcover and come in this really, really nice, beautiful box. If you don't know what Revolutionary Girl Utena is, you must be really new to, fandom in general. But apparently, I have never seen the anime, but apparently the manga differs really greatly from the anime. But it's definitely something that I'd pick up, especially if you tried collecting Viz's early release of the series, which was, I don't know if it was flipped or not, but I know it was kind of like in like a paperback, and it's really old and out of print. So if you are a Yuri fan, if you were like into like Yuri from like the history of Yuri itself, I would definitely look into picking up Utena, especially now that Viz has graced it with these beautiful books and this beautiful box set, and I'm so glad that I picked it up and added it to my collection. On number 9 on our list is actually an older release, and that is the Black God, which is something that I picked up over the summer when I went on a trip to downtown LA, but it's a battle manga. A lot of shit happens, actually, but initially it's about this guy, and he meets this girl on the street, and she's like she appears to be homeless, but she's actually like this kind of like deity who is traveling around looking for someone very specific, and it's like this like really big deal, and I'm really sorry that I can't like properly like synopsize what this is about, but this is a battle manga, and I don't normally pick up battle manga. Battle manga is probably my least favorite genre, along with sports manga. It's just, you read so much manga about people beating the shit out of each other, and you just kind of get sick of it. But there's just something special about Black God that just kind of attracted me to it. Maybe it's because the main character, Kuro, is just this adorable little cupcake of a girl. Maybe it's the fan service, I don't know, maybe I'm just trash. But it's a really interesting story, and it kind of goes into like the supernatural, so it's like battle manga mixed with like kind of like interesting original supernatural themes, and I definitely recommend picking this up if you haven't already, if you like battle manga especially. Number 8 on our list, just to be fucking controversial and shit, I have the Death Note All-in-One Edition, very specifically the Death Note All-in-One Edition, because I think this is fucking cool and economical, and I've gone over this like in like 2 videos already, how I think that the Death Note All-in-One Edition is fucking genius, and fuck your shit with like the paper and stuff, like, go away, you know how I feel. I've made a whole video on how I feel. I don't have to talk about how I feel. All I can talk about is that this is a really great idea, especially for people who don't have a lot of money but really want to read like the classic. I don't know if Death Note is a classic, but it's definitely like a must-read for any like manga fan. And the fact that they have put it in this book, and it's compact, and it's cheaper than buying like the single editions or the black editions all like, you know, individually. It's just a really interesting idea, and I'd like to see, you know, more of this. I'd like to see more all-in-ones that somehow manage to stretch some sort of like law of physics in order to fit 12 volumes into something that hardly takes up any space on your shelf. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, I just like what this means for people who collect manga, who don't have a lot of money, and I just think it's a really cool idea to put a large series of a series that is very, very popular and highly regarded in a single book, and it's cool, and I like it. Base supported. Next up, we have Complex Age, which is a story about a girl named Nagisa, who is a cosplayer, but she's also like 26 years old and is a part-time worker at like an office somewhere. And the story, like proper, is about her having to deal with the fact that she has a hobby that isn't really regarded as something that one is into as like an adult. But it's more of like a coming-of-age story and learning to accept yourself and learning to like adapt your hobbies to your lifestyle, and it's a really interesting book, and even if you aren't into cosplay in general, this is just, the themes in this book are really, really nice, especially for, like, older people who consider themselves, like, otaku, which is a filthy fucking word, who, I don't know, I feel like this would speak to a lot of people, especially people who are, like, deep into adulthood, who are still into stuff like anime or cosplay or stuff that is considered childish, like, not even, like, anime or Japanese-related stuff, but yeah, Complex Age is a really neat book, and it's only 6 volumes, so you can't really go wrong. It's really nice. Next, we have Welcome to the Ballroom, which is a sports manga about ballroom dancing, if you couldn't tell by the title, and like I said earlier in the video, I am not a very big fan of sports manga. The only other sports manga I have in my collection is Ice Shield, and we only have the first 6 volumes due to the fact that I have no passion to collect it, because sports manga it just never really clicked for me. Like, everybody can have, like, their slam dunks and their haikus and whatever else the fuck y'all collect these days, but it's just never really been my thing. But Welcome to the Ballroom, for some reason, it has similar themes from, like, every single other sports manga. It's, like, pretty much by the numbers. Maybe it's just because it has to do something that isn't, like, classically masculine. It's just, it goes into, like, detail about stuff that I'm kind of really interested in, and if you wanted to, like, try out sports manga, but you're not really into sports, I would definitely give Welcome to the Ballroom a chance, because it is a really good sports manga for people who are not very athletically minded. Next on our list, we have My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, which was a title that I was super hyped to buy all year until it came out, and it was not what I expected, but in all the right ways. I was expecting, like, I knew it was autobiographical, but I was expecting kind of like, you know, Yuri, because, you know, I'm a fucking idiot. But really, this is about one girl's, kind of struggle with her own anxieties and, like, mental health issues, and learning to accept herself and learning to be a more intimate person. Whether or not she succeeds or not is kind of, you know, left to the reader to find out, but there's a lot of stuff in here that really spoke to me on an uncomfortable level, and I related to it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And it is just, even if you don't like Yuri, which shame on you, it's not really a Yuri story. It's an autobiographical piece by Nagata Kabi, who is a lesbian, and it's just her autobiographical work about just not really dealing with, but living with mental illness and what that entails for somebody who is much later on in years and is still trying to figure out what the fuck. So it's just really, really nice, and it's not very long, and it's a really unique release because it's black and white, but it's also got pink tones in it, which I think is really fucking cool. Next, we have My Brother's Husband, which is a manga that I have not seen very many people speak about, which is really surprising because this is a beautiful, beautiful manga. There's so much I could say about it. It's by, like, the most surprising person you could ever think, and it's by Gengaro Tagame, which, if that name is familiar to you, then you are familiar with this man's work and the fact that it is highly pornographic, and he loves the muscles, which you can tell he loves the muscles in this, but it's definitely not porn. It's about this guy and his daughter, and one day they get a visit from this guy, who is the husband of this man's twin brother, and it's just a manga about learning to accept people for their differences, and learning to look past your own biases that you have grown up with or have been like facilitated within you over your lifetime. And it's just a really neat look into like, especially like the LGBT community within like Japanese society. It's just a really neat book, and if you have not picked it up, I definitely recommend you pick it up. It's in this beautiful hardcover book by Pantheon, which is not a publisher you see publishing a lot of manga, which goes to show that this is actually a lot more important than just, you know, gays. There's a message in here, and it's one that needs to be read and treasured. Coming hot off the heels of that, we got Monster Hunter Flash Hunter, which I have gushed about over and over and over again all year, which, if you have not seen any of those videos where I, like, blow smoke up Monster Hunter Flash Hunter's ass, it is just a quintessential Monster Hunter manga. If you've ever played any Monster Hunter game at all and read this, there's definitely going to be something that reminds you of a certain hunt you did while playing, or just the adventures with friends you made along the way. It's going to bring back some memories of the game and just a lot of just good feels. Good feels if you're into Monster Hunter. And this was coming off the heels of Monster Hunter Raj, the most disappointing Monster Hunter manga of all fucking time. So I'm just really thankful for this release, and that it exists, and who the fuck's ready for Monster Hunter Worlds? Hit me up, boy! Next up, we have The Ancient Magus's Bride. This really beautiful modern fairy tale about this girl named Chise, who, after like a series of unfortunate just mishaps throughout her life, decides to just kind of like throw her own life away and auctions herself off in this like magical like auction house, because she has a gift, and one of her gifts is that she can see like spirits and stuff, but another one of her gifts is that she is a certain type of magical entity called a sleigh baggy, and she just kind of like, she's like a magical magnet conductor kind of thing. And she's actually bought by this guy, big ol' skull motherfucker, and he buys her with the intent of making her his apprentice, and by the title, his bride, which sounds creepy, you know, guy purchases magical girl to become wife, but it's actually really interesting, and it blends multiple types of fairy tales together. Like, it's not just, like, it takes place in England, but it's not just specifically English fairy tales. It blends together a lot of, like, other different, types of fairy tales from different places of the world. It's just a really neat book, and it's kind of, like, it blends together, like magical elements with, like, everyday life just really, really well. And it's just a really nice, calming read to just sit down and flip through. It's really, really nice, and I definitely highly recommend this one. And finally, the final volume in my top 10 pickups for this year is gotta be Land of the Lustrous, which is about Earth, one assumes, very, very far off in the future. Humanity has, like, died off, and, you know, multiple, like, asteroids have hit the Earth, and just, like, the planet itself has just become uninhabitable to anybody, but these creatures who are made up of, like, elements who are called the Lustrous, who are kind of like gem people a la Steven Universe, but trust me, y'all, the only, like, thing it has in common with Steven Universe is the fact that the characters are gems, but the art in here is really, really unique and is just beautiful and elegant in ways that I just cannot describe. And it definitely, out of like all the stuff that's come out this year, this is definitely something that's very unique in style and tone, and it's just a really interesting book, and I highly recommend to anybody who's looking for something new and interesting and something just out of the ordinary to start collecting, and that would have to be Land of the Lustrous. And yeah, that would be my top 10 pickups for the year of 2017. I will see you all shortly in another video, probably a haul, because I'm kind of, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we still are not done with the manga for this year, my dudes, so, you know, stay tuned.